Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Anne Marie. Today is Friday, November 1st, which means it is officially my birthday month, and I am going to celebrate it by discussing some of my favorite books. Like usual, every Friday in November I will choose one book to discuss in depth without revealing any plot twists or ruining any surprise endings. What's different about this month, however, is that I'm going to choose books regardless of their publication date. Normally, I discuss books published within the last 5 years. Why? Because those are the books that are currently on trend in the publishing industry. Now, I think for most of us, when we think about trends, we think about fashion and home decor. However, there are trends in the publishing industry as well. For example, one of them that I've noticed comes and goes every few years is crime fiction involving serial killers. My Sister the Serial Killer was published in November 2018, and I would argue that this is one of the books that paved the way for serial killers to be on trend again. Prior to this book being published, literary agents and editors were not acquiring these types of stories. I distinctly remember the words "no serial killers" in all caps on their websites. Then, with the success of My Sister the Serial Killer, agents and editors slowly opened up to these types of stories, as long as they were in the vein of My Sister the Serial Killer. It's important to note that this is not your typical serial killer story, where an unknown murderer skulks around town killing people, maybe leaving calling cards, maybe with a detective hot on the trail trying to piece it all together. It's none of that, which is what makes it unique and sets it apart from the typical serial killer stories that at one time saturated the market and forced agents and editors to stop acquiring those types of manuscripts. So without further delay, let's move on to the 10 Things I Love About You, My Sister the Serial Killer by Oyinkan Braithwaite. The first thing I love about My Sister the Serial Killer is that the title says it all. This is the story of a woman named Corday, whose sister is a serial killer. This is not a whodunit because we know who the killer is before we even open the book. The title tells us so. Yet knowing that Corday's sister, Iola, is a serial killer doesn't take away anything from the story because it still maintains the creepy vibe of a tale involving a deranged serial killer. The second thing I love about this book is the format in which the story is told. This is essentially Corday's diary. It opens with Iola's third murder and then continues with entries that tell about Corday's day-to-day life, as well as an occasional entry sprinkled in to give us a glimpse into their pasts. The third thing I love about My Sister the Serial Killer is that none of the chapters in the book are numbered. Because Oyinkan Braithwaite wrote it using a diary format, she used chapter titles instead of numbers, which I think was both practical and clever. Furthermore, the chapters are short, just as you would expect to find in a diary. This leads to the fourth thing I love, which is the informal tone Corday uses to tell the story, even though she's talking about a serial killer. Let me give you an example. This is how the chapter titled Body begins. Have you heard this one before? Two girls walk into a room. The room is in a flat. The flat is on the 3rd floor. In the room is the dead body of an adult male. How do they get the body to the ground floor without being seen? The dead body is Iola's third victim, and after they gather supplies, clean up the blood, and turn him into a mummy, they need to move his body. This presents a problem because they are on the 3rd floor of his flat, and so the chapter continues. We could have used the stairs, but I imagined us carrying what was clearly a crudely swaddled body and meeting someone on our way. I made up a couple of possible explanations. We are playing a prank on my brother. He is a deep sleeper, and we are moving his sleeping body elsewhere. No, it's not a real man. What do you take us for? It's a mannequin. No, Ma, it's just a sack of potatoes. I pictured the eyes of my make-believe witness widening in fear as he or she ran to safety. No, the stairs were out of the question. We need to take the lift. The fifth thing I love is Corday. She's a hospital nurse, and I think the 3 best words to describe her character are meticulous, passionate, and strong. These traits do not go unnoticed at the Nigerian hospital where she works, which is why she gets promoted to head nurse. Korede is older than Iola, so she feels responsible for her sister's actions, especially since their mother has always blamed Korede for all of Iola's mistakes. The sixth thing I love is Dr. Tade. He has the smallest office of all the doctors at the hospital, but he never complains about it. He sings to his young patients to calm them. He is kind, loving, polite, and handsome, and Nurse Korede is enamored with him. Unfortunately, he only has eyes for Iola, Korede's sister. You know, the one who is a serial killer. How does that work out for him? About as well as you can imagine. The seventh thing I love about this book is the hospital patient in room 313 who has been in a coma for 5 months due to a car accident. Even though he is not one of Korede's patients, she still visits him and talks to him, confessing her secrets and sins, mostly her feelings for Dr. Tade, as well as Iola's murders. But he's in a coma, so he cannot hear her. Right? The eighth thing I love about my sister the serial killer is Femi Durand. He is the victim at the start of the book, and he's the third boyfriend that Iola has murdered. What's interesting is that while Iola has moved on from his murder, Korede, who never even met Femi while he was alive, is still haunted by it. She frequently thinks about him and his family, and continues to check his Instagram account and blog for updates. She reads his poetry, and although she tries to understand why her sister killed him, she's having a difficult time understanding why she did so. The ninth thing I love about this book is the chapter titled The Game, because in that chapter, Korede, Dr. Tade, and Iola play Cluedo. Since Dr. Tade has never played it, Iola explains that the object is to find who the murderer is, in what room the murder took place, and with what weapon. Whoever figures it out first wins. She then passes the rule book to Dr. Tade and winks at her sister. Little does he know who he's playing against. As a quick side note, Cluedo, known simply as Clue in North America, is a combination of the words clue and ludo. Ludo is the Latin word for I play. It is also the name of a popular strategy board game in which players use a die to move their pieces around a board, similar to the way game pieces move on a Clue or Cluedo board. As a lifelong fan of whodunits, this is my favorite board game. And finally, the 10th thing I love about this book is that I read it all in one sitting because I could not put it down. Although it sounds strange to say this, my sister the serial killer is creepy and suspenseful in an enjoyable and entertaining way. And quite honestly, I didn't want it to end. If you've read the book and would like to add to my list of things to love, please do so in the comments. Until next time, take care, be well, and happy reading.